right. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Fernez from the Black Dog Confessional, and I have my buddy Redbird with me, like usual. How are you today, Redbird?
Look how you change it up every time.
I did. I had to change it up because, we
now you're just going by Fernez?
What would you like me to be today,
I like how you
Chris?
tell everybody that you're Fernez from the Black Dog Confessional. They're tuning in or downloading this on Stitcher, iTunes, or anywhere you can get podcasts from. They know what podcasts they're listening to.
Chris hasn't had a snack yet, so he needs a Snickers bar.
Now, if we were a guest on our guest's podcast, then that's how you can introduce yourself.
well, let's get to our guest because, nobody wants to hear you anymore. Anyway, we have Stephon Williams with us today. Stephon, a lot of respect. He runs his own podcast called Bowtie Conversations. Super excited to have him on because he does leadership training, and that's something that I'm huge in. It's something I love. So, Stephon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. How y'all doing, everybody? Stephon Williams, retired United States Marine Corps Master Sergeant with over 21 plus years in service. I'm the owner and founder of Having a Better Understanding Leadership Development Training, which is called H.A.B.U Leadership Development Training. I've been doing it for about over a decade as a business owner and everything. And I'm just happy to be on the show, with you guys and just chop it up.
We're happy to have you here, man.
Thank you for the invite.
Now, I got to throw something out real quick. You came in today in normal attire.
Yes, this is Black Dog Confessional.
This is Black Dog Confessional attire.
Yes.
Usually, if you tune into his podcast, he is a well-dressed man. He is a very well-dressed man.
The man can rock a bow tie.
The man can rock a bow tie.
Steve can't even tie a tie.
I can't. No, it's funny you bring that up because Gabriel wore a bow tie to prom yesterday, and he came home and I saw it on the counter, and I was thinking, oh, God, there is no way I can do that. And so him and Maria sat in the back room for like 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get this tie tied. And meanwhile, they're on YouTube watching videos.
Hey, that's how I learned, man, on YouTube.
that's how you got
Literally.
exquisite. See, I just put on T-shirts because that just makes my life easier. Plus, depending on the size, it can cover some of my chub up.
Not that one.
Not this one here. I'll stretch it out a little bit.
You got the schmedium.
And speaking of my shirt, as you can see it, this shirt is to help support the kids from Odyssey of the Mind at Stevenson Elementary. Those kids won the local, the state, and now they're on to the World Odyssey of the Mind competition up in Michigan. I'm going to post a link later so you guys can support them if you want. They're trying to raise funds to get there. You can buy shirts. You can just donate to their GoFundMe. But like I said, later on, I will post a link to that, help keep those kids thinking and encouraging them. And this is something I didn't know that I learned about Chris the other day. Chris was in Odyssey of the Mind, which shocked me.
I don't know why that's so shocking. I would think after 12 other podcasts and now the 13th podcast, you'd realize that I'm actually the brains behind this operation.
And like I always say, I'm the beauty, you're the brains.
I don't know we have any beauty. We do. We brought Stephon on.
But
other than that, we keep Jesse behind the camera.
Yeah, because we can't have too much in front of the camera, you know what I mean?
So I don't know that we've had some beautiful guests, but yeah. I think there's just smart and nerd. So
thanks.
All right. I'm glad your nipples have calmed down now. They're not going to poke everybody out next.
You have been obsessed with physique today.
Again, we brought Stephon on.
Yeah. So Chris, real quick, you being obsessed with physique.
Yeah.
What did you recently sign up for? Who'd you go talk to?
So I went back and I hooked up with Mike. Let's see if I can do it this time. Stefano?
Sure. Good.
I always call him Mike D. Stefano or Mike D. Anyway, after Mike was on the podcast, him and I, we've been friends for a while and been talking. And I went down yesterday and met with him at his gym, Recruit Strength, and I went ahead and got signed up there. So I will, after this, probably go down there and hit a workout in and try to get back actually moving weights around again. Luckily for me, it's 24 hours, so I can go in there in the morning or late at night when nobody else is there and embarrass myself until I can get back to some respectable strength because it's a strictly powerlifting strongman gym.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, you can do functional fitness there, I guess, but that's what it's mainly centered around. And so right now, while I'm just trying to get my muscles stretched out again, I don't know that I want to be in there benching and deadlifting around other people. Give me a couple months, let me get my numbers back up, and then maybe I'll go when there's people there.
Awesome. Now, Stephon, you teach leadership stuff. Tell us a little bit about why you do that. Why do you teach leadership work?
My my career as a Marine, I encountered some things with some individuals who would abuse their authority, abuse their power, and I've seen the after effects that it has on the individual and their family, anyone that they're connected with. So over time, as I picked up rank, I tried to become a buffer for a lot of that stuff, and I was really passionate about it because I was personally affected by it, and I knew the detriment of it. But I'm just a guy that kind of, I fight back, I fight back, and I put myself in a position where I can be the solution, and just watching me put myself out front first for my troops and things, and saving them from some of the shrapnel that certain leaders will actually throw at you when they blow up.
The friendly fire.
The friendly fire, Some of it was friendly, some of it was not. But it just, as I ascended to the higher levels, I just had the opportunity to impact change. And I seen that, hey, you know what, this is my thing, this is my purpose. And everything after that led to where I'm at today.
Now, I always ask this question. We use the word leadership all the time. Can you define the word leadership as if you were defining it to a 4-year-old child?
Okay, a leadership is basically a person that has a certain amount of power where they can care for you, share with you, teach you, and guide you to do something that they want you to do for them. But also it should be a win-win, not always a win-lose, where they win and you lose.
Yeah, we were talking, I operate on this mentality of like this bee theory where the queen needs the hive to thrive.
Yes.
And
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. And, just the whole mentality behind development, progress, how things are built, and what people's strengths are, what people's weaknesses are, and how to develop upon those weaknesses. Leadership training is very interesting because there are people who may be great workers, but they may be bad leaders.
Right.
And some of that falls because of stuff falls in the gaps sometimes. A great worker may have never been taught to be a leader. He may have never been trained to be a leader.
Correct.
Then he gets a leadership role, or she gets a leadership role, and now they're like, okay, where do I go from here?
Right.
And it's a big change. It's one thing when you're monitoring just this.
Yeah, it's all about you. Right?
But now I have to worry about different individuals, and with every different individual is a different personality.
Yes. And that's very important that as a leader, when you're in a position where you have to facilitate the needs of the individuals, you have to learn who they are, what they are, and how they operate. And some people might say, that's just too much. I heard many times, I'm not a people person, but you're in a position of leading people. Which one is more important? Taking care of your job or taking care of yourself?
Yeah, and leadership is, I think some people think leadership is just a work thing. Leadership is in everything. It's in how you live your life every day.
Yes.
Chris and I have talked about this before, about living your life as an example. Don't preach it and not live it, because if you do that, then you're just a hypocrite,
you could take that home, right? I mean, how can you tell your kids, don't do this, don't do that, then you turn around and do it? Because what kind of example are you setting for your kids, So it's a constant everyday thing. I think like what you're talking about with I'm not a people person, or I don't want to learn. That's where I think the majority of people in leadership roles fail, is that they don't want to expand to how other people are. They want everybody to be in a box and be one way, and it's whatever way that leader wants.
Right.
It's not, and they don't conform to how the people that work for them or with them are. They don't. Steve and I have known each other over 10 years. We think and look at things completely different. You look at things completely different than we do, and then so you get a leader in who doesn't want to explain that or work with us. They want it to do that way. Now, because we're all a little older, we'll fall in line and do what we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But he's not going to get he or she's not going to get any sort of super benefit. They're not going to get.
Right.
They're going to get, if they want 100%, they're going to get 100%. But if they want any more, it's probably not going to happen because there's no interest, there's no buy-in, there's no anything.
There's no incentive for you.
Right.
So think about this. If I were to come to you two guys and say, okay, you got 30 troops under you, and I would say, okay, what do you want from your troops? What would you tell me?
Well, I want them to go home every day.
Okay, that's one thing. Right? Okay, just go a little deeper in it. What would you want from your troops, the people you lead?
I want my people to be happy.
Okay.
I want them to be safe.
Okay.
Obviously, I want them to go home every day. But I want them craving more. I want them thirsty for more. When they come to work, I don't want them to go same routine every single day. Turn the light on, turn the light off. I want them to come and grow every single day, whether it's just one minute piece of information that they didn't have yesterday.
Right.
I think growth is continual. I mean, I've been in my job for 16 years. Chris, you've been in how many?
Almost 13.
Almost 13. I pick up the phone and call Chris. There's things that Chris is specialized in that maybe I didn't specialize in, and vice versa. I don't go into the mindset that I know everything, and even though I'm upper in rank, I still have to make those phone calls sometimes to actually discuss things. Because for me, I have to discuss and learn. And the same thing I want for my troops is that when they come in, I want them to constantly be wanting more, constantly be wanting to develop.
Okay. So you're saying that you want them to be in an environment where they're growing.
Absolutely.
Where they're learning.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest marks of a leader, right? Is if my goal is to be in charge of everything by being in charge of nothing. You know, I want you guys working for me. Sure, the buck ends with me, and I make the ultimate decision. But if I've grown you to the point where I can trust you to do the work, then I can just sit back and reap the benefits and make sure you get the props when things go right, and I take the bullets when things go bad.
So see, everything that you're both talking about is about how they feel about the environment you set up.
Right.
You know, so most leaders won't understand that, hey, you have to provide them something. So if I ask that question a lot. I say, okay, what do you want from your people? Higher performance, commitment. I want them to be
loyal.
You know, loyal's big. You know, I want them to be committed. I want them to be creative. I want them to be motivated to do more.
And you know, but you're using specific words. And I'll go back to what I said before. How do we define that to a 4-year-old child? There's a lot of adults who, if you ask them what the definition of integrity is, they look at you and go, well, integrity means integrity. No, what does integrity mean?
Right.
What does character mean?
Right.
You know.
So we are governed by rules and regulations and laws, and y'all both know that, right? And so laws are made to be broken. Rules are made to be followed. So when we ask a kid, okay, what is integrity? If I've taught you what the right thing is, I shouldn't be around when you do it or do not do it. You know, you should know to do the right thing when I'm not being watched, or you're not being watched. That's a big problem with a lot of people. When they don't feel that they're not being watched,
that's when they start to slip.
When you see who they are. So if I got to stay on you tight like that, you know, I can't turn my head because I never know what might happen. Same thing with leadership.
Right.
If you're not giving them, you're not being trustworthy toward them, you don't show them no respect, there's no such a commitment as you want from there, you're going to see the opposite on the performance side of the house. Well, you know, we don't trust so-and-so. I'm not putting in no extra hours. I'm going to just do bare minimum and get myself on home, you know. So it's one of the things I talk about. If you want so much from your people, you have to invest in your people, and that's what both of you are talking about.
Absolutely.
If you want them to come home safe, you showing them that you care.
Right.
So there are 4 core when you're talking about leadership and just talking about motivation of people. 1, they need to be able to express themselves. I need to know that I can tell you what's on my mind. 2, that you understand where I'm coming from, and I can only get that from communicating with you. 3, you got to show me that you value me. And if I feel valued, if I feel like I belong to the team, that I'm loved, you know, that's going to change the way I feel about the team. And 4, that you give me some type of autonomy with my life and my career. That's why we do wish lists and, hey, I want to do this and do that. Leaders, when we look at those 4 pillars and we apply them, you know, in a certain way, we see the difference of how people act under our leadership. Because they'll tell you stuff like that. You know what? And he understands me, man. He listens. He gives me my time.
So that's it. You have to listen, though, right?
Yeah, you got to.
Because I've worked for people who will say, all right, so tell me, what do you think I'm doing good? What do you think I'm doing bad? And you tell them, and then it's in one ear, out the other.
Yes.
If you're going to have it, you have to listen.
They hear the good, they don't hear the bad.
Right. And I pay more attention to the bad. I mean, the guys and girls that work with me and for me, and my wife will tell you, I constantly ask her, hey, what am I doing good, and what do I need to work on? Right. And I ask my kids, my 8-year-old. Awesome, well, because, again, if you don't know, and especially in a relationship with my wife, but even then at work, luckily the guys and girls that work for me, I've known my entire career, so I think they're all fairly comfortable enough to come sit down in my office and go, hey, man, this thing you're doing, it's kind of jacked up, and this is, and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes we still do it my way, and sometimes we do it the way they suggested, but we work through it, and to get to a why, you know, when they walk out of the room, now they understand why. Because what I failed there was I didn't explain the why to them well enough, why we were doing it that way. And then the other thing with creative thing you were talking about, you have to let people be creative and have to let people free think.
Oh my God.
I've had guys come to me and they're like, nobody on my squad can do anything, you know, and then their phone will ring and they'll answer and like, no, do this, and then call me back. And they'll hang up. See, Stephon can't think. And I'm like, well, what's he doing? Well, he's got to call me every 5 seconds, or I got to make sure he's not screwing it up. I'm like, it's not them that can't think. You won't let them do that. You have to let them and give them that ability to free think.
Micromanagement chokes the productivity and the life out of any team. Period. And because it kills them in that realm of creativity.
Right.
Now,
they stop thinking, right?
Right.
Because
you spend more time doing what you're doing, fixing it.
Right.
You know. Yeah,
well, what we're going to do is when we get back, what you basically just touched on was called emotional intelligence, right? A lot of emotional intelligence stuff. When we get back, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and how to drive people forward, right?
Let's get it.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hey there, this is Jesse Hall, and I want to remind you to tune into Business Elite Brevard Edition. And what we do on Business Elite Brevard Edition is bring to you some of the biggest movers and shakers on the Space Coast. These could be industry leaders, tech innovators, and social influencers. And what we do is kind of bring them on, ask them some of the most relevant questions that you may not know about. And these are people who may not be in the news, but they are making moves behind the scenes. Again, tune in. Business Elite Brevard Edition.
Hey, I'm Vinny with the all-new Vinny Marino podcast. I want you to join me every other Monday as we tackle all the craziest headlines from around Florida and truly explore and uncover what's missing. Also, we will invite the exciting guests from our community who have seen it all and aren't afraid to spill the beans about it. And finally, we can't forget about Vinny's top 3 rants and raves about traffic, restaurants, and events. Join us on Facebook as we go live and bring you behind the scenes of each show and let you be a part of it. The Vinny Marino Podcast, all Space Coast, super raw and unedited, straight to your dome all the time. Live from the Space Coast Podcast Studios. Listen everywhere you find podcasts.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
All right, we are back. We have Stephon Williams with
Black
us.
Dog Confessional.
Stephon, before the break, you were touching on 4 points, and it kind of led us into a discussion on emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Let's talk about emotional intelligence a little bit.
Okay, and emotional intelligence is basically this. You understand your emotions, what caused those emotions, what your triggers are, in such a way that it's not like, I think I feel this way. You really understand why you're feeling this way. And then you have the ability to understand other people's emotions. Like, okay, I see what they're going through. They just lost their dog, and they might be a little bit quiet today. I shouldn't go at them with so much force. Right. And they apply their behaviors toward that person with empathy and understanding. You know, so emotional intelligence is basically knowing how to navigate your emotions and other people's emotions effectively.
Effectively, there you go. Effectively,
yeah.
But we talk about it with individual personalities.
Yes,
every individual personality, you're trying to figure out a way to get that person motivated, keep leading them, have them be productive.
Yes,
productive is the key point. You know, like how do I get this person to follow me in the battle? How do I get this person to continue on their work when I'm not around?
Right.
You know, how can I trust them to do this? And when you start seeing the effects on individuals, I can tell you, I know that if I say, hey, Chris, if we go do the next 3 things and we're going to get donuts at Dunkin' Donuts, Chris is like, we're going to do the next 3 things. So we can go
we're doing it fast, too.
But
that's his motivation.
That's his motivation. But
it makes him feel good.
But every day.
Who doesn't like a good donut?
No, let me explain something to you. He said, who doesn't like a good donut? Who doesn't like 7 donuts?
Listen, I have a rule at Dunkin' Donuts. Just put them in the bag. The girl will go, how many? I need a coffee and some glazed donuts. And she'll go, how many? I go, you put them in the bag, and I'll eat them. You pick the number today. Yeah. So
it is, and it's like a lottery because sometimes she'll be like, "Ooh, 6." there's still 3 in there. You know, he's so excited.
I always
you know,
get,
he's
no
like,
matter
"Get
how
off
many
Christmas."
there's, I always get sad when I get to the last
Yeah.
number. You know what taught me the best to learn that everybody learns different was when I first became a training officer. Because you have 2 choices there. I can either, you're going to do it my way and that's it, we're not going to talk about it. But if you want somebody to learn and actually absorb what they're being taught, and in law enforcement and the military, it's so important that they do. When you get that one-on-one time with them in a car for 8, 10, 12 hours, depending on what the shift is, you have to adapt to how that person learns. There are some people, if Steve was my trainee, I know that I can look at Steve when he screwed something up in the car and go, what the F was that, man?
Right.
And he'd be like, I know, I won't do it again. But then I know that I could get, Joe Smith in the car, and if I did that to him, they'd shut down for the rest of the day.
Right.
So you have to learn how to get this
intelligence.
get the same exact message across, but you may have to do it differently.
Right.
And that has helped me when I got promoted into a sergeant's role, realizing that, hey, there's 8, 9, 10 guys on this squad. They all react to things differently. And there's a little bit of a feeling out. I mean, you can kind of get somebody's emotions a little bit, but until you get them one-on-one in your office or at Dunkin' Donuts getting a coffee or some donuts, but once you break them away from everybody else and see who they really are, if you want them to work for you, you have to show them that you have to invest time in them. They have to feel that you're invested in them.
Yeah.
And it has to be real. You can't fake that stuff, and they will know it. And you'll be screwed as soon as it gets out, and they figure out that this is just an act. They're done.
And see, a lot of times leaders forget where they came from.
Yes.
When you're in a follower position, you're watching everything your leader does. You know who's the favorite. You know their moods and things like that, but they rarely know you.
Right.
So when you actually sit down kneecap to kneecap, what we call in the Marine Corps, hey, we're going to have kneecap to kneecap discussion, and you get to understand that person, what motivates them. Matter of fact, in my book, Stephonisms, my thoughts, my words, my experiences, I broke down the word leadership. Leverage every asset, develop every resource, set the example, hone on individual potential. So when you look at that, it's telling the leader, these are the steps you must take. You got to leverage every asset, your human assets. You got to develop every resource. Your humans are your resource.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to set the example. You have to model the behavior you want them to follow. Then you want to really dig deep, kneecap to kneecap, and hone the individual, not team, but the individual on your team, their individual potential. That is leadership.
And that's what I tell a lot of the younger guys when I'm like, hey, you should do this, you should go back to college. All these things I tell people to do, they're like, I'm not ready to do that right now. I kind of want to do this, kind of want to do it. Well, here's the deal. You can be generic soda, or if you walked in Publix right now and you could buy generic soda or you could buy Pepsi, which one are you going to buy? Same price. They're like, well, I'm going to buy Pepsi. Why? Well, I know what Pepsi is. It's a brand, the packaging. Okay, but why? And they're like, well, that's the reason. It's not the ingredient. And I said, so you have to figure out a way to market yourself, develop yourself, so that people know who you are.
Yes.
They recognize your brand. They recognize your face. Yes. When they talk about Chris Cardinal, they go, oh, I know that guy. I know that guy, Chris Cardinal. I heard he's been doing this. I saw him at that. All different things that can make your product better. Yes. Everything that goes into making what that brand name is that you wanted to buy because it was the same price as this one. What was the reason you bought it? And at the end of it, they were like, well, it's the label. It's, the history to it. I've always had, that's part of I've grown up on that. Okay. So what's going to get you to that point? What's going to get you to go back to school? What's going to get you to be a marketable product? What's not going to let you make it so you disappear? We want to make you so you're stronger, so you're better, so you move forward, so that people recognize you when you walk in the room. What's going to do that?
So I got a question for you. If you can tell me which boss, leader, however we want to entitle it is, which person in your life, in your professional life, has left the best impression on you, and that you will work with them or for them at any time?
Oh, I can name off several, but I'll tell you one.
Tell me what they did. Tell me what they did.
I'll give you one example. Since you just retired to be a chief somewhere else, Commander now Chief Chief.
And he did get promoted to chief before he left.
Right before he left. Greg Purdon, the day that Deputy Barbara Pill got killed, Greg Purdon was the incident commander at that scene. I was an agent. I wound up being second on scene, actually second or third on scene. We all kind of got there at the same time when the car had gone in the ditch. After we extracted the guy out and he was secured, I walked back over to where Greg Purdon was, And at that time, I had just learned who had been shot. All I had known at that time was that a law enforcement officer had been shot. Once I got over there, Greg Purdon told me, and I said, well, how bad is it? And he goes, it's not good. And I said, all right, what do you need to be done? And I watched that dude run that scene like a boss. And at the end of it, after, everything that was sad that happened, everything that went into the investigations, everything that went into scene security and all of that, I remember driving away thinking, that's what I want. I want to be like that. When the shit hit the fan, it is, emotionally exhausting, physically exhausting, everything's, wearing you down. Dude stood there and he ran it like a boss. And I was like, there was so many police officers there from all these different agencies. And I thought, that man just controlled that whole thing in utter chaos and turned it into a successfully locked down scene investigation and helped push it into the next phase of the investigation. And that's what I thought an incident commander was. And for me, I said, how do I get to be that mindset? How do I get to be in control to where, like, I can say, we got to get to work, and this is how we're going to do it. You do this, 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 and this. I need a map of that, and I need this. We got to go, and that was what happened. And in my mind, even being only a few years on the road at the time, driving away, I thought, how do I get to that? How do I get to that type of leadership mindset?
So he left a lasting impression on you by his actions.
Absolutely.
So you'll never forget that name, because that name is really tied into his actions. Right. Your name means things. It's not just what they call you, it's what you leave. It's your legacy. Like you're saying, that guy, I can remember that girl, what she did and how she made you feel and what example she set. He showed you what leadership was. He had to have a presence of mind. He had to have control. He had to have foresight. He had to have communication skills, where you watch him flawlessly manage a diverse group of people from different agencies and lock down a scene, and where you are, that's what I want to be. So that's when your leadership impacts people on a positive note, but it also does it on a negative note. That's why it's important that as we move up in levels, we have to expand ourselves with the understanding of people. We're not leading machines, we're leading human beings. We have to understand people. And as a leader, if you go up on another level, you have to really be about the people. But in order to be about the people, you have to develop yourself. And if you don't have the resources around you or the people around you to mold you and mentor you correctly, you got to seek outside help. That's what the leadership development training companies about, like myself. And that's where we see a lot of people put less emphasis on getting the appropriate training. We can get our technical training, our tactical training, but what about our people training?
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you, when we became sergeants, we had to go to a leadership course, and part of it was taught by one of the commanders, and he showed a video by a leadership speaker by the name of Drew Dudley. And Drew Dudley got up there and he called it Lollipop Moments. I don't know if you've ever seen the video.
No, I never did.
And
I thought that was Purdon's. That's not Purdon. That was Purdon's video.
No, it was it Purdon's? I thought it was Barnett's. It was one of them.
Maybe, but I know Purdon likes that one too.
Yeah, so they showed it and I watched it, and immediately I was like, man, that was like a 5-minute video, but it basically talks about how if you live your life in a certain way, your actions affect other people, and you don't even know it. You keep moving about your day. And later on, this guy finds out that one action that he did led to this girl to be successful. She didn't originally want to go to college. He does this. The girl goes to college. The guy that he actually jokes around with this whole lollipop thing, they wind up falling in love. They got married, and so she came to him at the end and said, "Hey, you don't know me. You're not going to remember me, but this is how you impacted my life 4 years ago." And he was like, "I love this story. I love everything about it. I don't remember it. It sounds like me. I know it's me." She explained me down to a T, but I do this so routinely that it's just how I live my life, And he goes into talking about getting away from random acts of kindness and getting into purposeful acts of kindness.
Yes.
Don't buy Starbucks from the person behind you because you're living off the same. 6 months ago, I bought somebody's coffee behind me at Starbucks. Guess what? If that person's in line at Starbucks, they could afford freaking Starbucks. what are you doing for underprivileged? What are you doing for this? Don't live off of one thing. Do purposeful acts of kindness. And purposeful acts of kindness could be something as simple as opening the door for somebody, telling them good morning.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be anything major. It doesn't have to cost you money. It's just a purposeful act of kindness. You're getting yourself a drink, so you get somebody else a drink. Whatever, however it works. But getting into that focus of making it so purposeful, I think you said something like it's like 2,000 something random acts of or purposeful acts of kindness a year that you do if you do 4 acts of kindness a day, and just
if you
push
did 4 acts of kindness a day, you'd be right around 1,400.
Okay, is that your
for
math?
the year?
Is that your math?
Well,
1,460, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
So
365 times 4.
Yeah,
it's not 2,000. Get your math better. I'm gonna take your nerd shirt away.
Math is not my strong suit.
I want to jump back on something that you was talking about, Chris. Still in the line with emotional intelligence.
Yeah, you got to cut Steve off. Dude.
Yeah,
He'll just keep going. Anybody who wants to watch the Dudley talk, it's a TEDx talk. You can look at it on YouTube. Don't let Steve steal the credit.
We were talking off the air, and we was talking about feedback,
right?
And how some people like to do the peanut butter sandwich or the doodle sandwich,
the compliment sandwich.
Yeah. So
I hate the compliment sandwich.
Let's talk about that.
So personally, my personal belief with the compliment sandwich is, and for anyone who doesn't know what the compliment sandwich is, I pull Stephon in my office. I say, hey man, you're doing a really good job out there on this, but you're really screwing this up, and you need to get better at it. Blah blah blah. And then you spend 2 minutes praising them, 15 minutes berating them, and then you leave them with but hey man, you're doing a real good job. Real proud of you. See you later. You give to me, the person that you're trying to counsel or try to help get better, you are giving them mixed signals if not done properly. Because now they're walking out and they're going, all right, is Chris happy with my work performance or is Chris unhappy with my work performance? He told me I was doing a really good job, but he sat there for 15 minutes and told me and berated me on this thing.
Right.
I don't know am I doing good or am I doing bad? And so that's why I'm not a big fan of the compliment sandwich.
And see, that's when we were talking about the diversity of people, that certain things about ourselves, we got to make those adjustments. And if it's not done, like you were saying, properly.
And most of them aren't. And
most of them aren't, because it's an art and it was taught incorrectly. Say, for instance, you had a negligent discharge.
Right.
You come in, you're going to see on my face that I'm not happy. Like, hey, man, what's going on? Let's sit down. Hey, Chris, I admire you, man. You got some great service. But today, what's going on with you? And I'm trying to find out what's the purpose behind what happened. I'm gonna check you on it. But I'm also going to go back at the end and say, look here, man, I expect more out of you. You're better than that.
But but that's not exactly a compliment. It's like it's a good one.
But what it's called is a remotivation.
Okay.
Because
that's a repackage.
Yeah, repackage. Yeah, because some people, literally, I'm telling you, some people can't take feedback. That once you tell them one thing, they don't hear nothing else. Oh my God, I'm that screwed up. Yeah. They think the incident is all about them in totality, instead of saying, hey, this is a behavior that
I think you're 100% right with it's got to be done right.
Correct.
The people that actually do it wrong, and we talked about it a little bit before, are the people who don't like confrontation. So now I'm going to tell you you're doing something wrong, but hey, come on, you still got to be my friend. You still have to like me.
Yes, that's an issue.
As a boss, as a parent, as a person, you can't always be liked. You'll get back to it, but there's going to be a time when they're going to walk out and they're going, no, fucking hate working for Fernandez.
They're not going to like you all the time. Trust me.
We'll touch more on that.
I hear the Oscar music.
You hear the Oscar music? They're walking you off. That's it. All right, we'll be right back after this.
Out of here.
Are you ready to explore the world? Travel to exotic locations and live your best life with Anytime Travel Solutions. Anytime Travel Solutions are your worldwide, unbiased concierge with access to real inventory of hotels, cruises, railroads, tours, and all of the best excursions. Anytime Travel Solutions realizes how fun it is to plan your own vacations, so we have the option to search vacations and book safely on our website, or you can visit us in our conveniently located offices in downtown Melbourne, Florida. Did you know travel is proven to benefit your health, both physically and mentally? We have 3 decades serving travelers and making dreams come true. So ask yourself, If not now, when? Call Ceci today to begin your adventure. Dial 321-779-4285 or visit anytimebookings.com. That's anytimebookings.com.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
All right, we are back.
I don't know whoever that voice is that does those ads.
Amazing, aren't they?
It gets your little nipples going again, Stevie. Look at them.
All right, we were talking about leadership techniques with Stephon. One of the things we were talking about was the why.
Yeah, the why.
Let's get back to the why. Let's go ahead, Stephon. Let's hear about that.
A lot of times that people hear the word why from let's say our generation. You know, we're used to saying, "Hey, do what you're told,"
and you go do it,
and you go do it. You know, and that's the world we were living in. And don't question authority.
Right.
That's the world we were living in. Now we're in an information age where you want question why, you want to know why. You know, and people, if you look at it at a deeper perspective, you want to know what's your purpose. What's the purpose of me applying myself in this world? What's the purpose of me applying myself in this job? And then you might have to go deeper into purpose to make them, you know what, I am being a protector of the citizens. You know, I am keeping people safe. You know, I am doing something that most people can't do. I am putting my life on the line. I have purpose. I am valuable to society. You see what I mean? So when you speak that into them and you share with them the deeper why, now they'll do more for you because they understand what's motivating them to do what they do.
I agree 100%. If you can get the why across, and in anything, I mean, that's the big scope of just getting them going. But just anything little. If you got to pull somebody into your office and go, hey, look, we're getting complaints about citizens that you're speeding. Mm-hmm. Here's why we don't speed. Look, think about this. We got accidents, we got this, but you're also rolling around in a marked billboard that says sheriff on there. We have to set the example for the motoring public. If you're driving 60 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour zone, who are you then to pull the person over that's doing 40? Mm-hmm. You know, so once you explain the why, then they start to think about it a little bit more and they go, all right, I get it. And then they slow down to 55 because they dropped at 5, but they're still hauling ass through. But they've at least slowed it down a little bit. But
no, and you're right. You're breaking it down to that why is what gets people to buy into you also, because it's one thing when you're that guy that says, I told you to do this. And they go, why? And you go, because I said. And they go, well, man, this guy's an idiot. He has no idea why he's telling me to do it in the first place.
Yes,
and that just doesn't work with the new generation. And not the new generation necessarily of millennials,
right,
but just the new generation
of information.
of the new workforce that's coming in. Mm-hmm. You know, you could be 22 starting out at a job, you could be 52 starting out at a job. They're still the same. They want to know now, why am I doing this? Why are we doing it this way? Why? And in our job, even the older people who have been around, you know, the guys who've been doing it 15, 20 years, why are we changing it?
Why are we changing things?
Because you want to try to get something changed in law enforcement. It's like pulling teeth with people who've been doing it because they've been stuck in their ways forever.
We've always done it this way.
Right.
That's why we're going to do it that way.
And then you got to look at them and go, well, just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean we were doing it right. And now we're going to start doing it right.
And I would tell you that's something that I deal with on a daily and with my coaching calls or with the training is letting them know that, hey, what got you here is not going to keep you here. You know, if we go back to 1993, you know, let's say 1998. If we got a floppy disk, what is it going to do for us right now in 2019?
Go ask my 8-year-old daughter what a floppy disk is.
You know, even if you show them our old phones when you got the rotary, you know, there was a video, kids didn't know what to do with it. You know, so you have to upgrade with the times if you want to remain relevant, or you become a dinosaur extinct in your leadership, in your communication style, and all that. You will become less, I would say, creditable. Less useful if you don't upgrade.
Right.
You know, look at what we're doing right now. We got a podcast, we're talking, we're on the internet.
But think about how big that is. You just said useful. That is so huge. No matter what you do, if you're in law enforcement, the military, if you run a hedge fund, if you're a money guy, the people working for you, if they don't think you're useful, if they don't see any value in working for you or having you as their supervisor, their leader, they're not going to work for you. They're going to start looking and going, well, Stephon's thinking, man, I work for Chris. That guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. But Jim's over there working for Steve, and look, they're excelling. I got to get over there.
Yeah, I want to
Chris
change
is
my
not
team.
useful. I need to get over there. And that's and you can apply that anywhere. You could be a sales clerk at Macy's. You know, you could be changing tires at Gatto's. you know, law enforcement. It doesn't matter.
You could be in a relationship.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, but
You could be in a
you can even
relationship.
bring it even more recent. Think about a few years back when the space program shut down, and everybody's like, well, "What are we gonna do now? We've always done it like this. What's now? The world's gonna fall apart. Everything's gonna close." And then all of a sudden, now there's SpaceX and Blue Origin and all these groups that are coming in that are talking about what the future is going to be. It was that mindset of development, that mindset of
Yes.
seeing the future of what we can accomplish, and not just the mindset of, well, it's all over. It's all over. You know, how do we continue to develop? You know, and you know, Chris brought up a good point about, you know, people not wanting to work for him and wanting to work for me, because that's obviously true.
Yeah, that constantly happens. That
constantly
constantly happens. People
happens.
going, you know what, I'm gonna go work for Fernez over you.
I'm saying, you know, I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you want to be with me?
Yeah.
And that's how most people think, though. You know, I'm the ish.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You got to come hang out with me. I breed succeeders, you know, successors, you know, and all this good stuff, you know. But you know, we're getting back to the why. I
Hold
can't
on.
take.
Well, yeah, but you touched on something there real quick though. Breeding other leaders, because that's huge too, right? If you're not developing the person to take your spot, then what are you doing? You know, and that's a big problem with leaders too. Is they're afraid.
They're afraid.
I'm afraid to develop Steve because Steve's going to take my spot. What happens to me now?
Right.
Well, hopefully,
That's very
I'm
common.
either getting mentored by somebody above me to take their spot, and they're moving up. I think in a mentor relationship, you have to have two, right? You have to have a mentee, someone that you can work with and help, but you need to have a mentor. You know, I need to help Steve, but I need to have you helping me
Right.
move up that chain, and then we all
connect.
Absolutely.
just drag up.
And
right?
even on the other
a rising
side of it.
tide lifts all boats,
Absolutely.
ships, whatever the
whatever the thing is, whatever that old saying is.
right. That can you can go that you put that one in criticisms.
Yeah. But you know,
Hey,
you bring
the
up a
book,
good
man.
point. It is. You bring up a good point with the you know, people moving on. Like there's some people that are like, well, you can't leave working for me because that makes me look bad that you want to go. For me, if my guys work hard and females work hard and they get selected for a special unit or they get something, I love that. That's what I want. I want them to get there. I don't want them to be sitting on the road with me for 10 years. I want them to be moving on. And when they get those roles, I take it as a compliment because that means that they're developing properly. It means I must be doing something decent enough that makes them move on. And I don't look at it just from me, but I look at it from my precinct too. If the other supervisors we're all holding each other accountable and we're all developing our people and our people are getting picked for specialty units, then we're doing something right. I don't get upset when somebody leaves me. I want you to leave. I want, you know, it's that baby bird, you know, kick them out of the nest and see if they fly. You know, and if they do a good job, that's also a reflection of what's going on.
What you're talking about is what many leaders kind of lack the understanding of, that when they leave, they are a representation of your leadership.
Right.
And if SWAT is saying, like, everybody who's coming from, you know, Big Steve, man, they going to SWAT. I want leadership under Steve.
That's the first time anyone's ever called him Big Steve.
You
by
know,
the way.
man, look at his chest, man.
Especially
His
Maria.
guns, man.
Chest up. Thank you, Jesse, once again.
But you know what I mean? So they haven't been mentored to know that, hey, your people represent you. And in the Marine Corps, we used to talk about it, is that, hey, we don't have to see the leader. I just need to see your people.
Right.
I need to see how they perform and what's going on in that department and who's the department head. And now I can tell you where the stuff is coming from. Either they lacking in some areas of development, you know, or they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So every leader that's scared really just feel that they're not going to go no further than where they're at the moment, you know. I got a quick question for both of y'all. This conversation had brung it up to my mind. Have you ever seen the movie Crash?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. You ever seen the movie Crash?
That's one's got like 3 or 4 different stories
Is
going
it
on
about
all
5
at
or
one
6
time.
of
Yeah,
them, yeah.
yeah.
All
It's
right.
a great movie, but it's just been a long time since I've seen it.
All right, man. Well, I can't talk about it.
Oh, you can talk. You're not going to spoil it because I don't want
No,
to.
you need to watch.
You gotta watch
No,
it. But it goes to what we were saying, pulling you up. And the guy has the training officer. The young rookie
Right.
comes on, and I can't remember the actor's name, but they pulled over the guy from Empire,
Right.
In the SUV, and he kind of sexually harassed the wife.
Right.
And then he said, "Hey, you want to go home, or you
Or what do you want- right.
want a ticket, right?" So but the training officer is sitting there like, "Hey, man, let him go," you know. But he doesn't have any influence to stop him. But what wound up happening is you see the second and third order of effects that happen with the wife, with the husband, with the training officer. The training officers, not the training officer, the trainee was like, "Nah, I don't want to even ride with him anymore."
Right.
It's just showing that everything that you do in a position of leadership has reverberating consequences or
absolutely.
repercussions.
And that's everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
Like, I mean,
That's the old
everywhere.
throwing the pebble into the lake
Yes,
to see what
yes,
happens. And,
yes,
you know,
yes,
the
yes.
butterfly effect.
I knew you were going to go there. Yeah,
You knew I was going to go there.
you've probably seen that movie, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have.
If you haven't, Crash is a great movie.
Yeah,
It's been a long
right.
time
It's-
since I've
it's
seen
long.
it.
It's- Yeah, I use it for training.
Yeah,
You know, just showing how that everything
I always
that
used to
we
make
do.
my trainees go home and watch Training Day, and I'm like, that's what we're doing tomorrow.
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you, I knew cops like Lorenzo. I knew cops in New Orleans like Lorenzo. Literally, I was shocked he was able to play that role like that. I was like, God damn, that's Tankhead. Yeah, man.
Well, yeah, no, it's interesting when you get hearing you talk about leadership, because there's a lot of what you said that I agree with. We see the biggest problems come from failure to lead and failure to mentor, because then eventually what happens is these people get to a point where they're going to take over a leadership position. If we haven't taught them how to be leaders, then what are we leaving behind? Yeah, we can move up, but if they haven't been taught what to do, now what are we going to be doing? We're going to be dealing with all sorts of problems.
Right, and so to take that to like the business world, you own, say, Charles Schwab or someplace where you invest money. If I'm not training you to take my spot when I move up, then when I move up, we're going to fail because I failed by training you, and you don't know how to train Steve to do it. So now it just falls downhill, and you fail.
And you leave weaknesses in your link.
Now let me ask you this question. 3 biggest issues you see. You teach all over the place. What are the 3 biggest issues you see? Corporate, anything. What are the 3 biggest issues?
A lot of the stuff that we're talking about. Leaders not being able to mentor properly. Leaders not being able to connect with their people and understand that they got to facilitate their needs. And leaders really just being self-centered, and putting the jeopardy of the organization at hand because of them. Those are the 3 most common ones that I run into.
A few years back, we were talking about the do as I say thing.
You have a lot of that.
We have a lot of that. Now, a few years back, people started getting into like team building exercises.
Yes.
And it was like almost the start of developing emotional intelligence. Well, we have to trust in each other, so we'll do the fall technique. Trust me, I would not catch Chris. I would not catch Chris.
He would try. It's just a strength issue.
he's joking right now. That's why I was
took some water down the wrong pipe.
Throwing shots at him while he's down.
Right.
But they started doing that. I went to a ropes course. Have you ever done? Be a great program for you if you haven't. Lead Brevard.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I've spoken at Lee Brevard, but I haven't been at
You go do it. I went through it as a student. One of the things that you do is you go to a ropes course, and there's different levels. There's the low levels where the people who may not be able to get up on the big tight wires up there, we do exercises with them first, and then so that way they get team building skills and everybody kind of meets up, and then they go, hey, by the way, if you want to continue to do it, there are the high ropes. And if you want to try it, you go ahead and try it. And I was like, heck yeah. But I can tell you, one of the best relationships I forged with my friend Carla McRae was that day at the ropes, because she got up there and on the tight wire, she slipped and she took that wire off her thigh to the point where the cop and me went, she's cut. That's a bad hit. She came right down. Her whole thigh was purple, but she was laughing. She's like, I guess I got to go back and try again, kind of mindset.
Right.
And I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like she wasn't defeated. She was like, I could do that, no problem. And she, right on game, and ever since that we developed a good relationship. Same thing with my friend Brian Stevens. Brian's a real estate lawyer. I had to clarify that when he first told me he was an attorney. I was like, defense? And he's like, no, real estate. I'm like, okay, I can't hate a guy in real estate lawyer, So we went over there and he looked at me, and Brian's like 6'3", and he's like, you want to race up this wall? And I was like, only if I get a head start. You're already 3 feet above me, Like,
you still lost, didn't
yeah.
you?
Oh no, actually, I was kicking at him. So cheat to win, Chris. Cheat to win.
Again, I've seen you kick.
Yeah.
So you get tiny little legs. You can only kick so far.
Like little baby legs, just trying to kick at you. But it forged a good relationship out there. From that point is where we started to build emotional intelligence, because then I started finding out about Brian and his family, Carla and her family, going out for meals and sitting down and breaking bread, and getting that emotional intelligence to the point where I go, all right, cool. They have a total different thought process on leadership because they're in the corporate field. I have a mindset that was raised in a law enforcement field.
Right.
So now looking at networking and the social aspect of partnerships and leadership, this is what I need to work on. So I learned about that through Lead, dealing with all those type of people, is how do I develop that network? How do I develop that partnership? That person that I may need to reach out to that may work for Harris, or
strategic partnerships.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. You talk about strategic partnerships a little bit?
Oh, man, listen, the power of people. That's what I'm about, human capital development. So you cannot have any development without having any interaction with people who are different from you. You know, so those strategic partnerships, like some people might not know how to start a conversation. You know, one of the great things with team building exercises is that it removes you from a certain environment and makes you become very intimate with the people you're going through it with.
Right.
You know, put us in a fighting hole, we're going to learn a lot about each other overnight.
Absolutely.
You know, 48 hours, we're going to know everything about each other, you know.
Absolutely.
So when you do things like that, now you break down the anxiety when it comes to most people to approach strangers and talk like, hey, man, who are you? And how you doing today? You know, it becomes very surface. But now when you get that close, you start to learn about each other. You know, and where you work, now you got a friend. Now you have a connection. You know, now is a win-win. Hey, I'm over here, you over here. Let's maintain this relationship. So relationship maintenance is very important. How do you maintain it? You can't let it go too long without having lunch, without having a phone call, without having a beer or something like that. And those things are taught in a lot of my leadership workshops. So that, hey, now let's get away from all this suit and tie. Let's talk about people. See, I understand the dynamics of people. And if you go to, I don't want to say, they got a lot of canned leadership programs out here that I went to see. I want to see what's out there. And then being in the military, we had a lot of consultants come in. I'm like, man, this is bull crap. You know, the Marine Corps teaches better than this. So when you go to a training function that talks about the psychology of people, where I go, that's why I have having a better understanding. I want you to know what motivates people, what connects people, what disconnects people. Now you can see, oh man, maybe I was doing it wrong, and now let's practice the skill set right now.
And that's longer lasting.
Yes.
And, you know, we always talk about the on fire people. You know, the speaker comes in, is like, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do great, and everything is gonna be great.
We're gonna kaboom it.
Yeah, and then people are like, they walk out and they're like, this was the best seminar
We're gonna start doing this,
ever.
and we're gonna do that. It's gonna be freaking great. And then 2 days later, fizzles
like,
out.
The crash.
Right.
It's that adrenaline and then the crash. And then you're back sitting on your couch eating potato chips being like, I thought I was going to be a millionaire in 3 days.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
but there's no long lasting to
you know
that.
what
This is long lasting.
What happened, I call it crack. It's crack speaking. You know, people get you super, oh yes, and then that high come out like, what the fuck did I learn? I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're just throwing knee on it.
Gotcha.
Cool.
You know, what did I learn? You know, and you didn't learn anything because there was nothing that touched you. If I tell you, you might forget. If I show you, you might remember. But if I involve you, then you'll understand. Now you know your purpose.
Right.
Now you know the intricate details that come along with getting your stuff reset, you know. And that's what people want to know. They want to be competent that I know what to do and I know my purpose of doing it.
Getting the job done.
Getting the job done.
So the why.
That's what the why.
You say purpose, I say why. Same thing. But
the same thing.
That's the biggest thing in all of it. And I think you said something there that was real important too. There's a lot of people who don't understand that as leaders, you still have things you need to work on. You have to understand that,
you don't
that
know
this
it
is.
all.
We were talking about getting feedback from the people that work for you.
Yes.
You know, and whoever, whether it's the people that work for you, whether it's your family members, whether it's your wife, your kids, just your friends. You know, hey, what am I doing well? Like what am I doing that you think is making you better or helping you do better? And what do I need to work on? Where is my failure at?
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to trust that you've built the relationship with the person. Because you're going to have some people who work for you, and you're going to say, hey, what can I work on? And they're going to go, man, Stephon, you the bomb, dude. You're
and that's
great.
the worst type
You're
of people
great.
to be
I don't
around.
need anything. And you're like, all right, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, you got to pull in the person who's going to sit across from you and go, you really want to know?
Yes.
And that's when I get excited. Because you're like, yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
And I know now by you saying you really want to know, that I'm going to get a real answer from you. Because I'm not going to grow. If I think I'm doing everything right, and everything's moving smooth, everybody's showing up for work, everybody's making their quotas. If you're in the business world, they're making their sales. Right. Everything's good. I'm just going to ride this wave out. But
a lot of people believe that too.
Right. And you never know what's underneath.
Yeah.
Or even things might be good. But maybe if I switch up one or two things, I could take it to a whole nother level. You know, we're selling 1,000 units of brake pads this month. But if I just do one thing to motivate you a little bit more, we could double them sales and things would grow. I'm not going to know, though, because I'm not going to ask. And they're either too competent and they think that, or too
complacent.
Complacent, that's the word I'm looking for. That they're good, or they're afraid. A lot of them are afraid too to just find out where am I failing at? Where am I not doing well?
And I think a lot of us who do that, we've already done self-analysis. We've already sat back and said, these are the things I think I need to work on, but let me hear it from somebody else too. And when you ask somebody, you're expecting them to give you certain things, because I've already done self-analysis. I do self-analysis every day. I do self-analysis sometimes on the way home, and I'll be like, could I have done that better?
Right.
You know, what am I doing? I mean, like we talked about it earlier. When I first started working, I didn't have kids. I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have any of that stuff. Got married, had kids. Then I was like, I need a college degree. It was hard having kids and getting a college degree, getting a bachelor's, getting a master's, working my way through all that stuff. But those were all the things that, as I was doing my self-analysis, I was like, I need these things because I don't want to be generic Coke. I want to be the name brand. You know, I need that because if I want to move up to be the leader that I want to be, not only at the job, but in my personal life. If I want to be able to provide the way I want to provide, if I want to be able to do this the way I want to do it, if I want to be able to go ahead and take my kids and go on a trip and say, hey, this is something I always wanted to do and how I'm going to experience it with you. Those are all leadership techniques that are, it's that constant circle. If it's at work, it's at home. If it's at work, it's at home.
But think about this. How many people in your culture are like you?
I don't know.
And that's the problem. We don't know who, because sometimes we forget like that.
I can tell you definitively who is not. You know, when you start working for them.
Right.
I had one for you that I've heard, and I want to get your take on it. Do you think anybody can be a leader, or are people born to be leaders?
Well, you know, some people have a predisposition with their character. For it, they might be talkative, they're really easy to like, and things like that. That'll kind of give them a head.
You just hit Steve.
Yeah, give them a head start. People just like them; they're very comfortable with.
Right. Eventually, they fizzle out when you realize they don't know what they're doing and that they're.
Yeah. if they're not developed.
I wasn't talking about you, Steve. Sorry.
But see, here's the thing: you have different types of leaders.
Right.
You got different levels of skill sets. Just like a boxer, you got fourth rate, third rate, second rate, first rate fighters. They all fighters, but they at a certain level.
Right.
So leaders can be developed. No, they're not born. They are cultivated, and I would say cult. Well, you know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So they all develop based on the environments that they come up in, based on the mentorship they have, based on their own self-drives that, you know, hey, to be better, self-development. I'm a self-development guy. I'm different. Every 3 months, something changes, you know, after working on it a long period of time. So, yes, they are developed but not born. They can be born with characteristics of their personality that helps them be stronger in certain areas, I would say.
Yeah, see, I go back and forth on it. I think sometimes that they're just born and they've just got this natural ability. You know, like an NBA player. No matter how much I go out and practice shooting hoops and playing basketball, I will never be as good as LeBron. You know, take away the height and the pure athleticism he has. But he's got a natural God-given
and the
talent
fact that he's 7'1" and weighs the same as you.
But see, but everything you're saying.
But you know what I'm saying? But the same token, I can go out there, though, and practice basketball and become good. I just may not be as good as LeBron.
But his predisposition, it was developed over time with practice and practice,
right.
So he has a head start.
But he had and then I go back to maybe, and I think everybody has qualities in them that can be developed.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
up to their current leader to develop them. And I think we were talking about a little earlier when you take somebody who's really good at technical stuff, and now you make them a leader.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't want to be a leader, there's your first. You're always going to. That's the hardest one, and not everybody should be a leader. You know, I think everybody's got the ability.
I agree, 100%.
But not everybody needs to be one. Sometimes you have chiefs, and sometimes you have people that are just going to be Indians.
Yes, correct.
Native Americans, indigenous people.
But I understand where you're coming from. The cliche, you wouldn't be discriminatory.
No, I'm just making sure that I don't want to get any. I never know what Steve is going to claim as his nationality this week, so I don't want to make sure that he's good.
Right.
So
I always stick with uber white. I am uber white.
That's weird because sometimes you're Puerto Rican.
No, my wife is Puerto Rican. I just eat a lot of Puerto Rican food.
Yeah, but then you try to claim that as you.
There's at least 40 pounds of Puerto Rican on me right now.
You know, I have seen your wife, and she doesn't look like that, so I don't think you can blame it on the Puerto Rican food.
I have a predisposition for it.
But yeah, so that's your first hurdle, right? Once but if you had the leader have developed some skill set in them, if they want to be a leader, that's the first step. I think anybody can be developed to it if they want to, and they have the ability to listen to the advice given them, and then they need the mentor. So back to you need a mentor and you need to mentee somebody. Right. You have to be the mentorship sandwich. I'm good with that sandwich. Maybe not compliment.
But
I'm also good with a ham sandwich right about now.
I am too. So, all right, to wrap it up, Stephon, we really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We need to do some plugs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm about to say, because if y'all aren't watching Bowtie Conversations, you need to watch some Bowtie Conversations. Give it a listen.
It's actually, Steve, it's right here on the Space Coast Podcast family.
That's where I was going with it.
Yes.
That's where we're going. You can find it on
Space Coast
iTunes. You can find it on all the different avenues that you find us on. You can find that one on. All right, so Chris, can you pass me that, please?
I will pass. This is mine, so don't.
Mine's over there with my sunglasses and my keys. Tell me about this.
Stephonisms, it's a collection of my sayings, my philosophy, and a couple of stories about self-empowerment and self-development. A lot of people believe that the keys to their success is outside of their hands when it's really sitting inside of them. So I share a lot of the principles, or what I would say tenets that I govern myself by. And believe it or not, the people asked for it. They wanted it. I used to just post it online, and then they wanted it. However, we talked a lot about leadership. And if you are a manager of your company and you want interactive, engaging, strong leadership training that's going to leave an impression, that's going to leave you with practical skills, follow me at StephonWilliams.com. On IG, Stephon Williams as well. But my company name is H.A.B.U, H.A.B.U Leadership Development Training. And StephonWilliams.com is the website. You can follow me and find out what I do and what services I offer as well.
Awesome.
Cool. I like they said leadership train just as the train came through in the background.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect.
I know
Like
that
you knew.
was. I
This
thought
is
it
like
was
twice today. He's
I know.
had like good timing.
Good
Like
timing.
before the song came on, that was like super pumped up, and he just walks in the door right behind me, and I was like, yes. I thought he was going to RKO.
I think that was the first time Steve had met you. So I think at first he turned around and then looked up and went,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah, I did.
shit!"
Surprise.
I turned around and saw pectoral muscles, and I was like, those aren't usually in here. What's going on? Where'd those come from? But like I said, we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, brothers. I
Anytime
appreciate
you want to
that.
come back, we'll have it. I'd like to do a little cross up too. We'll do
Yeah.
a little bow tie conversation.
Can we make Steve wear a bow tie if we come over to yours?
Yeah, we're gonna do that,
Bro,
We're gonna do it.
I
Both
They
of
don't
y'all.
make. Oh, I can figure it out. They don't make zip up bow ties though.
Yes, they do.
They do? Oh, okay. Because when Steve was an investigator, he had zip up ties.
Those are my call out ties, bro. Like 3 o'clock in the morning, that phone goes off. You're like, zip, I'm ready to go. But anyway, like I said, we thank you for coming out,
Hey,
Jesse. Like always, thank you. You can play us out, brother. Everybody, be safe out there.
Oh wait.
Whoa, what's going on?
Saturday, May 4th. This coming Saturday is the Carrie Ann DeMont 5K at Max Brewer Bridge in Titusville. If you haven't registered yet, go register online. Get out there. Bill DeMont will be there. You can get on their website, the Carrie Ann DeMont Foundation, and I think there's a link there to register. And I will be there. I'm sure Steve will not because he'll find a reason not to go do the 5K on a Saturday.
Look at that. He's trying to call me out right now.
It's May the 4th, so you'll be watching a Star Wars
It is.
marathon.
May the 4th be with you, everybody. May the
geeked
4th
out.
be with you. I'll post up a link for that on the Facebook page also. All right, y'all be safe.